Welcome, Janet. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Very
It's
excited.
yeah, it's really good to be on your podcast. I've listened to so many episodes, and it really put me in such a good frame of mind and such a peaceful frame of mind. I love how you start with your breathing and a little bit of meditation because that's a good place to put the reader in. I mean, to put the listener in for them to actually receive the message that you're sharing.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm actually, the first question is pretty simple here, probably, but I'm really curious what or how you define mindfulness and what island mindfulness is.
Well, I started the mindfulness journey probably about 10 years ago, but in a way, I feel like I've been on it my entire life because I grew up in Jamaica and we have a real laid back spirit about us as Jamaicans. We have a lot of issues, but we tend to bring peace and calm to them. So it's not that we don't have problems, but we tend to believe that every problem can be solved, um, with the right time and the right effort. So I try to incorporate that same spirit, that same peaceful spirit, that same no problem spirit to all of the issues that appear in my life. And I try to share that with others. So that's how my mindfulness journey started. But for me, it's really getting in touch with who you are and who you are as a part of the universe. And so it's really meshing the two. I don't know if they've ever been separated, but it's really getting in touch with who you are as part of the universe and making sure that you're just not living a check the box lifestyle. You're not just going through as a zombie or, we're breathing every single day, but we're just not in touch with that. We just sort of take it for granted. So I like to tell people just to make sure that you check in with yourself at least once every hour. And that usually starts, for me, it starts usually at the beginning of every hour, if I can remember. I try not to be exact with it, but sometimes it's nice to have a routine. So I try to check in with myself for about 3 to 5 minutes at the beginning of every hour and really just sort of, sit up still and notice my breath. And so I try just to make sure that I take at least 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 deep breaths, however I'm feeling at the moment, and make sure that that breath is running through my entire body. So kind of feeling it. And it takes a while to really kind of get it. And so if someone is giving it a try and it doesn't feel right at the moment, don't really give up on it because we're all learning. So I tell people just to sit as still as you can, put the palm of your hands on top of your head, take about 5 or 6 deep breaths, close your eyes if you're in a place where you can, and just really feel it move through your mind and through your body, down your arms, down your side, and all the way down to your toe. And initially, you probably won't feel much, but if you do it over and over again, you'll start to recognize what's normal and what's not normal. You'll start being able to find either pressure points or tense points throughout your body. And that's when you know you're stressed or you're just fine. So when you find those points of stress, you just give yourself a little bit of a massage, ease the tension, and carry on with your day. So I like to think of mindfulness as something that you take with you throughout the day. Because people think, oh, mindfulness is that lofty thing that those really strange people practice. Well, it's not just something you do on the yoga mat. It's something that you can take with you throughout the entire day. And that's how I like to share it with others. It's for everyone. Um,
Great. I agree. I think it needs to I think it benefits us to practice in everything that we do. We just have to remember to do it. So that's fantastic. Just out of curiosity, how did you go from being a judge, you were a federal judge, to publishing and practicing mindfulness and teaching others? What was that journey like?
Uh, you know, um, growing up in Jamaica and getting the opportunity to come to the United States, um, it was really a big deal because I grew up rather poor. So if you get an opportunity, and my mother provided me that opportunity to be able to come to the United States to live the American dream. So there was some pressure just to make sure that I did it right. So I spent a lot of time just taking advantage, full advantage of the opportunities that I was given. So making sure that I get that college education, going to law school, getting that right job, doing the right things, such as getting the education, getting the good job, getting married, having the children, just checking a lot of boxes. And they were fantastic boxes. But after a while, I felt like I was sort of, going through the motions, checking the box. I wasn't really checking in with myself to see if I was on someone else's journey or on my own journey. So that's when the mindfulness started for me because I wanted to kind of get off the treadmill a little bit and really just focus on my mind, body, and spirit.
I think that's really profound for a lot of people right now because a lot of people are considering what they're going to go to next now. So I think that's great. Um, I want to ask you on a more serious note. So, in light of everything that's happened, I mean, between the pandemic and all the effects of it, and then now last week the incursion, or what I don't even know what to call it, the the revolt at the Capitol. I think it's important for people to really understand two things. One is how mindfulness can support them through these kinds of events. But the second is also something that I think a lot of people, even if they practice mindfulness, struggle with a little bit, which is how can you stay mindful or in mindfulness if you are facing something like the event last week in Washington, D.C., and a lot of emotions are churning and probably a lot of judgments are coming up about other people. And how do we use mindfulness to help us get back to sort of that centered place that, and how does it benefit us?
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of my friends about that exact issue. And even before the Capitol, just COVID and how it's changed everything about our lives. So we've had to deal with that for almost a year now. Then we had to go through, all of the stress of the election and the election results. And now we thought, oh, so it's 2021, we get to restart, right? Um, and this happens. So I think we're just tired and we're stressed and we're overwhelmed. And, we were starting to feel positive about 2021. And now we feel like, oh my God, when is it ever going to get better? So it's been overwhelming. And the thing is, we almost feel like we can't stop and mourn or be sad. It feels like we have to keep working. We have to keep raising our children. We have to keep virtual schooling our children. So there's no break. So there's incredible stress. So I tell people that this is the time for really radical self care. Um, we can't ignore the news. We really can't. But you really have to be mindful about how much of it that you're taking in and what you're taking in, how it's affecting your body. So don't just say, I'm going to be okay. Really check in with yourself and make sure that you are, in fact, okay. Um, Take those 5-minute breaks every hour to make sure that your mind, body, and spirit is fine. Get some therapy if you need to. Talk to your good friends. Take a few hours off from work. Do whatever you need just to make sure that you're doing fine because you cannot help anyone unless you help yourself first. So I tell my friends and whoever else is on this mindfulness journey to make sure that every single day, especially with what's going on right now, that you pay yourself first. And pay yourself first means that you take at least an hour every single day just to check in with yourself and do some self care, whether it's getting up and doing some exercise or, meditating or doing a little bit of yoga, gardening, just walking around the block. You really have to do something for yourself, because what happens is that the stress gets into your body, and if it gets into your body, it comes out in different ways, whether it's anxiety or, fibroids or there's so many other illnesses that you can get because of stress. So I'm just encouraging everyone to take really, really good care of themselves and check in with themselves, very, very often.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think many people are already feeling some ill effects from becoming too sedentary over the shutdowns, right? So a lot of people are already kind of sitting at home. They may be working, but they're sitting at home. And then on top of that, a lot of people have the TV on. So they're
Yeah.
being bombarded with the news. And the news has just not been very good for over a year now. So I think it's
Oh,
really
it's
important.
it's just been horrible, and it's nonstop. It's almost like as soon as you hear breaking news, your everything within you starts getting anxious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what is it now?
Exactly. What now? Yeah, I
What
totally.
is it now? And you know, and you can't totally run from it, because these are issues that are important to us and to our children and to our future. Whether it's, all the issues with racism, or, whether it's, the riots, which basically it sort of contradicts everything that we believe about our society and about our democracy. And we all wonder, how could this happen in this wonderful country that we love? So there's a lot of stress involved. So I think this is a wonderful time to incorporate mindfulness and meditation and whatever spiritual practice that you want and need into your life. This really is the time to do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think anything contemplative is helpful. But I think mindfulness is particularly helpful because just even that focusing, for instance, on your breath to calm that chatter in the mind that for a lot of people it has not stopped. I mean, it's just been negative chatter, based in fear over all the things that have happened. And I think when you
Mhm.
can just get calm enough and kind of, check in again internally and go, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay right now, so that you're not operating on the fight or flight response, and you're able to think more clearly, and that helps your whole system calm down. So I think it's an excellent time to start if you're not already practicing mindfulness. Absolutely.
And you mentioned fear, and I think that's really profound, because I think a lot of the upheaval that we're having is based in fear. A lot of people are just really fearful about where they stand and their position in the world, and we're almost afraid of each other.
Yeah.
Um, and I really want people to know that the universe has a table that's big enough for everyone. There's enough space for everyone. There's enough wealth for everyone if we acknowledge that and if we share. So all of this fear is just not, based in reality. Love yourself, love your neighbor, know that there is enough for everyone. Um, Build a bigger table, move your purse, stop man spreading, create a seat for someone next to you and get to know that person. And I think a lot of that fear will go away. So, I mean, I really hate all of this fighting and all of this strife. Some of it is necessary, but some of it is not. Um, so we just have to, be mindful about what's actually going on and not get caught up in a lot of the stuff that's out there, that's put out there by politicians and by the news, but really kind of get back to our sisters and our brothers and our neighbors and our community and really build that community.
Yeah, I love that analogy of the table. And I think it's true that most people they're not aware of how much of their stress is self-inflicted. And it's because of the thought process and them focusing on what people are saying. And it's not really what's happening in their own lives right now. So that's a perfect analogy. I like the table. Um, I know you've talked before, and I'm just curious a little bit about this, which is moving from victimhood, which I think a lot of people right now are feeling like victims on, if you want to say two sides. I agree with you. I think it's just terrible because it feels like now there are two realities, two sides, that are opposing all the time. But on either side, there are people who feel like victims. And I'm just wondering if you have something brief, like a brief practice or thought process or technique to help somebody who wants to help someone who wants to start the process of getting out of that state and into something more healthy and productive and meaningful for them.
Yeah, I start with um, focusing on blessings.
Mm.
Um, my morning routine really is to get up and spend 5 to 15 minutes being thankful. And when you start the day in a place of gratitude, really listing all of the wonderful things. I'm alive, I'm awake, I'm alive, I can breathe. My children are downstairs. I have food on the table. And some people don't. But whatever it is that your list of blessings are, the first thing you do is really to focus on those things and get yourself in the right mindset. So you're not starting out feeling fearful or feeling like I'm a victim or feeling like I have no control of the day ahead. People are controlling me, I'm not controlling my circumstances. But just really centering yourself and meditating or taking all of the deep breaths that you can, and just centering yourself, your mind and your body, um, so that you can be in the best frame of mind to get through the day. Because without that, we're really just kind of blowing in the wind, and that's not that's not who we are. That's not who we're meant to be. Um, we're stronger. We're stronger than we think. We're stronger than we feel. We're resilient. We have a lot of control of ourselves and what happens around us. When we feel out of control, we feel powerless. We start getting anxiety. We start feeling fearful. So really take back your power because you have it. It doesn't matter what anyone else tells you. You have the power. So take it back. Practice self-acceptance, practice self-love, um, and just make sure that you're in the right frame of mind to face the world because there's so many challenges out there. And all we can do is we can control what we can. And it
Right.
starts it starts on the inside.
Absolutely.
And and also don't be afraid to reach out for help whenever you need it. Because I think there are certain people who like to make us feel like we're powerless. And not only powerless, but alone.
Mm.
It's really dangerous to feel alone and to feel isolated, to feel like you're the only one having this issue, you're the only one having this anxiety, you're the only one having financial stress. When you feel alone, it makes you feel very powerless and helpless and hopeless. Um, so make sure that you reach out to your friends, your family, your community, your neighbors. If they don't know you have issues, they can't help you. So if it's not something that you can resolve yourself, find a community to help you. And there are lots of mindfulness communities that you can reach out with fantastic people who can give you love and support and make you feel like a part of the community because isolation is deadly.
Yeah, and I know there are a lot of people suffering with it, of course, because of the pandemic situation. And we also encourage people if they don't have a community, but they really feel like they need some help. There are telehealth is available now, so they don't even have to
Yes.
leave their homes, but they can reach out and talk to somebody just to make sure you get back to that place that you can manage again and not let yourself slide down too far. So thank you for that. I guess we'll close with the question I ask all of our guests, which is really it's funny that before this started, I appreciate you saying that you're not an expert, you're learning all the time, because I agree with that. We're all learning all the time. But I think it's also important for people to recognize that even those of us that teach or practice or do other things in this field, we are always, first of all, we're human. And secondly, it doesn't prevent us from ever getting stressed or ever, having anxiety because we do. And so my question is, what is your go-to practice when you hear breaking news and you feel that stress level rising? What's your go-to practice that you use when that happens?
Well, first, as far as community, I have a wonderful community on Facebook. It's called Self Care Sisters. And that's where we gather and chat and we share a lot of our journeys. So none of us feel really alone. And I invite anyone who's looking for a community to join that group. Um, for me, in addition to the regular mindfulness practice that I talk about, music helps me a lot. Um, Although I grew up in a big family, I've always been sort of an introvert. I've always been that quiet child. So growing up, books and music were my best friends. So whenever I'm feeling really stressed, either I sit quietly and read a good motivational book, or I turn on my favorite music and it helps my spirit. In addition to that, I love quiet. I think it's really important to enjoy your own company. So I can sit in quiet meditation for a long time and really just sort of center myself. So books, music, meditation and mindfulness, and the larger community.
Fantastic. And so, why don't you repeat one more time the name of the Facebook group so people can find you?
It's called Self Care Sisters on Facebook. And it's just a group of women and a few men who are into self care and mindfulness. And we just love and support each other.
Great. Great. I love that. All right. Well, I thank you so much for being with us today. I know our guests will appreciate it. And of course, I want to wish you well and to be safe. And maybe someday when this is all, I don't know, lifted, we can take a minute and look back and focus more on what's positive coming. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I know we're going through a really difficult time right now, but I'm really hopeful. I have a lot of hope for the future. So I think we're going to come through. And if we realize that we have a supportive community and that, it's filled with love, and that there is enough resources in the world for everyone, I think we're going to be okay. But we have to get through this period to get to the light at the end of the tunnel. And there is, in fact, a light there.
There is for sure. Well, thank you.
So, thank you.